guest. All right, people, here we are. Yes. Um, yeah. So we're here. Happy day, folks. Welcome to Science with Ms. Steph. Folks, we are on Facebook Live. Yes, it says that on my little on my phone. Okay. And we are on Instagram Live as well. Whew. It's a challenge out here. Like, still, there's no reason for stuff not to work, but it still like doesn't. Okay. I don't have control over it. I'm gonna move on. All right. So I have my fun earrings on. These are my world's best science teacher earrings and stuff. Let's go ahead and cross post this. Let's let everybody know that she's on. Yes. Okay. Cool. Sounds like a good time, y'all. So I'm going to post. Give me like a few minutes to do all of that because, as you know, trying to cross post it, like beforehand is not a thing that happens easily. Gotta fix the hair. All right, so let's head over here and there and everywhere. Boom. We're up. All right. Hi. Welcome once again to Science with Ms. Steph. I'm Ms. Steph. Yes, and we're going to do 4. So, all of that whatnot that I just did. That's our whole entire 2 seconds of me being silly because we need to move really quickly on this today. We have 4. Yes, I'm serious. 4. We've got 4 activities for you, right? 4 activities for you to try for over winter break, right? The winter holiday break. So once again, welcome to Science with Ms. Steph, and I am Ms. Steph. It's great to see you and you here with me today. Y'all, the 4 activities I'm going to do vary in their science concepts and all that type of stuff, but this month, I really want you to have an understanding of STEAM and why we do STEAM. What's the whole entire point, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Okay? So for those of you that are on Facebook, let me know that you can hear me. I want to make sure that you are able to hear me and that the audio is coming from the right place. All right, it looks like over here it's like the one that I hooked up, so just checking. Okay. Let's go over here to Instagram and kind of tag in a couple of people. Let's make sure people know that we're on. Okay. All right. Okay. Just a few folk. Right? Letting them know that we are hanging out live today. Yeah? Who can say yeah? Awesome. Cool. A few more people. All right, so like I said, we have 4 different things. And so first thing that we're going to do to make science fun for y'all, project number 1, like I said, there's 4 projects today. Okay, there are 4 projects. We're going to do this thing called Amazing Snow. Okay, Amazing Snow. Let's see if we can get kind of the light to shift a little bit to bring over the source a bit so that it hits our folks over here on Instagram well. All right, so we're gonna rock out some amazing snow. Kid you not, it's 2 things. Okay, the reason we're doing this one first, remember, mind you, we're doing 4 different activities today. The reason we're going to hop into this one first is so that we can, that I can kind of like go from what takes the longest to, from what takes the least amount of time to what takes the longest amount of time. All right. And also what not only takes the least amount of time to do, but then also the least amount of time to explain, right? To explain. All right, scientists. So I have a container of water, right? I told you this particular activity only takes two, two main materials, right? You could technically say that the container is a material, but you know what I'm saying, okay? Hi. Thanks for joining us. All right, so once again, we've got water inside of a container. So you might want to technically say that that's 2 things, but I mean, that's you. Do you. I understand where you're coming from as a scientist, right? Remember, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. All right, and then this next thing that we're going to use is called Amazing Super Snow. All right, let me show it to you. Amazing Super Snow. And I'm going to tilt this down. Amazing Super Snow. Let me make sure that y'all can see that. All right, let me make sure that y'all can see it over here. Okay. Amazing Super Snow. And when I talk about quick, when I talk about like just insanely fast, I'm going to put some more just so you can like really see what's happening. All right. Do y'all see that? More. You know you want more. One more. Okay. So this particular investigation is based on these super absorbent polymers, right? The polymers that are in disposable diapers and so on and so forth. So it's plastic. Okay, the type of polymer, right? We talk about polymers, the things that are linked together, chemicals that are linked together in these long chains. All right, and it's super absorbent. Okay, do y'all see all that water? I had the water filled up to here, right? Okay, and then all I did was add that little scoop. Let's remind you of how big of a scoop I added. I added 3 of these little scoops to get this. That's it. Okay. I obtained this online from the people that y'all know how I feel. I won't necessarily mention them. Okay. But I did obtain it online. And so this is one of those things that you can grab online and just continue to make fun things. Once again, this is Science with Ms. Steph. And today we're doing 4 different projects that you can try during the winter holiday break. Okay, winter holiday break. Most schools in the U.S. are out in some way. Some folks started their break yesterday, and then some folks won't start their break until next Friday. But I want to give you lots of STEAM activities that you can do with your young scientists. As you can imagine, you can try this with different amounts of water, different amounts of the fun, fluffy stuff. You can decide if you want to add food coloring. Y'all know how I feel about food coloring, right? You can decide if you want to add food coloring. All of that. You can do lots of different things with this particular one. And scene. We're done with that one. Okay? I told y'all we have 4 things to do today, so I'm gonna be quick about it. Let's trade plates. Balance. Okay. Your girl is over here like got stuff all set up. All right. I'm going to move you kind of back and down a little bit so that I don't have to adjust you multiple times throughout. the session. There we go. All right, so welcome again to Science with Ms. Steph. This is the winter holiday edition, okay? Because you have young people that are going to be home, I can imagine, right? Some of you for like 2 weeks. And due to the recent uptick in the protein, um, um, some of y'all may already weren't expecting kids home until say next weekend, but some of you may already have kids home today, right? Because that's one of the reasons why we did not meet in person as much as we love meeting in person with your awesome scientists here in New York City. Out of an abundance of caution, I had to make the decision. It's my responsibility to keep everybody safe. So she decided that we were going to do a little extended online version today. Okay. So I'm going to move the, actually, let's do this. I'm going to move this here. To do. And get us set up for project number 2. Project number 2. Once again, thank you for joining me for Science with Ms. Steph. I've got Jean over here on Instagram. Love her, appreciate her. Okay. Shout out, girl. You know I always got to say hi to you. And also hi to my buddy. Okay. Now, this particular project, you can order the materials online if you want to, but you can also grab them from, say, like a Michaels. I know that Michaels carries these, the main material in this. All right. So obviously cups, you're not going to have to, cups, spoon, some salt. It does not have to be this brand of salt. This is just the salt that I have. Okay. But this particular item is your main item. These are, I call these water beads, but my lovely scientists call them Orbeez. As soon as I break them out, they're like, Orbeez, yay! No matter what time of year. No, it does not matter the time of year. When I break these out, people, yes. Oh, I just found out one of my students isn't feeling too good. I'm sorry to hear that. Tell him Miss Steph says hi. All right. So we have the Orbeez. Now, this is what I'm going to do with these. Once again, I said that you can source these online. That's usually where I source a lot of my stuff, just because it's easiest for me, because I buy in like bulk. Hello. It's a lot for me to carry home and all that, because y'all know the lab lives here right now anyway. Right now. Eventually it's not going to. Okay. But I have 2 things. One of the just kind of basic scientific investigations and like introducing experimentation that I like to do with students of various ages is do regular water, which is what you're supposed to use. Okay. And salt water. Right? You can do an investigation with your little one. And hi to my little ones that are on watching right now. Y'all know that Miss Steph loves you as a scientist and thinks that you're absolutely awesome and brilliant. And so once again, this is Science with Ms. Steph, and we're on for four different activities and investigations that you can try and change up throughout the winter holidays. Things to play with and learn with at home. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. All right, so many different components can be changed with this, right? I'm introducing you just to a basic fresh water versus salt water, seawater type thing. But you can say that you want to add different amounts of salt in the cups and see what change occurs. You can say that you want to do different temperatures of the water. You can say that you want to start them in salt water and finish them in fresh water, or go vice versa. You can really do quite a few different things. Today's basic thing is going to be fresh water and some salt water. So when we're making up our salt water, we're going to put in enough salt into the salt water. As you can see, some of y'all can see that I have this labeled, already pre-labeled. As scientists, we want to be labeling our materials and our samples, okay? So I'm going to make this salty enough such that it's cloudy, okay? So that it at least starts off cloudy. Once again, Ms. Steph here for Science with Ms. Steph, and we are doing 4, count them, 4 fun activities that you can try with your scientists at home during the winter holiday break, because there are several holidays actually that occur right now during this time of year. So, by the way, happy holidays, everyone. It's great to see you here. All right, I give this a really, really good stir. For those of you who are just now joining us, thank you so much. And we are on project number 2 out of the 4 that I'm going to talk to you about today. I have regular, just plain old fresh water from the tap. And this is fresh water from the tap with 1 scoop of salt, enough to make it cloudy so that you can tell that there's a difference. All right. And of course, I want to add the same amount of water beads to each, okay, to each. So I'm going to kind of count these out, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2. Who can tell me why I'm using the same amount of water beads? 4, 6, 8, 10. Who knows why it's important to make sure you're using the same amount of water beads in all the samples, right? Okay. 2. Okay. So I'm gonna put this here. Those of you watching on Facebook see that I have the finished samples here, and so I'll talk to you all about that in a second. All right, yeah. So we've got our water, our fresh water, and then we've got our salt water. Notice how they're starting at the same exact time. The water is at the same temperature. Okay, our variable, right? Science using experimentation. 1 variable. Our variable is that we have salt inside of one of the containers. That's the only variable. I put the same amount of water beads inside of both. I'm using the same size of water beads, because water beads, or Orbeez, like I said, as my various students like to call them, come in different sizes. So it's very important to make sure that you use the same size water beads, right? Cool. All right, so now let's see what happens. All right, what happens, folks, ladies, gentlemen, in person, so that the result of this, exactly. Shout out to Jean over here who knows her science, right? So here's one of the samples. After it's been sitting for the same amount of time, I let them equilibrate. Okay. 1 set of samples, 1 set of the Orbeez. Okay. And here's the other set. Of course, you would walk through a hypothesis step with your student, right? Right? And for my little ones watching with me and getting ideas with me, right? I'm sure you made a prediction of what would happen, and what the difference would be, okay? And the difference in the end is that one of them does not expand as well as the other, okay? This is my fresh water. My fresh water. Water beads expand best in 100% water, when it's only water. All right. And these same size beads, okay, have been sitting And let's let it focus. There we go. Nice little focus. And these are our salt water beads. Okay. These are the saltwater ones. Isn't that cool? I love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, folks, we are moving on. If we were in the classroom, I would say to everybody say moving on. And then everybody goes, moving on. Okay, all right, okay. Right. So I've got a comment over here saying that salt is actually a drying agent. Yes, it is. All right, that salt is a drying agent and it does not expand as, so it makes it harder for the beads to expand because the beads are expanding off of, hi, thank you for joining us. The beads are expanding by the fact that they are absorbing water. Okay. And so when you have the salt water is actually the salt inside of the saltwater sample is counteracting that absorption effect. All right. Cool. Now she's about to get kind of a little extra ridiculous. Okay. Remember, I'm telling you, these are all activities that you can try at home. Are you going to have to source a couple of things? Yeah. Okay. But I think it's important for me to make sure that I'm introducing you to various types of sciences, various things that you can do instead of just like doing all the kind of kitchen chemistry stuff, right? Don't you think so? I think so. Okay. So now I'm going to take this apart for a quick little second. Electromagnet. So I'm going to use electricity to form a magnet, okay, to get a magnetic field going. So what does a magnet do? So let's just kind of demonstrate very quickly what a magnet does, okay? So I've got some paper clips here, Y'all see these paper towels because you know that's for the last project because your girl has 4 things and we are only on project number 3, okay? I've got my test magnet here, all right? Because I want you to see what happens, okay? Paper clip sticks to magnet, right? Magnetic field, okay? Magnets, right? So you get attract and repel situations when you're dealing with magnets. Now, let's move on to the idea of creating a magnetic field, an attraction field, okay, using electricity, okay? And that's really what's happening in a magnet anyway. The electrons are aligned in a certain kind of way to where it attracts certain metals, not all metals, okay? And so we can then create that effect by pumping electricity through a wire. All right, so what I have here, y'all, I have an iron nail, okay? An iron nail that has copper wire twisted lots and lots of times around it. Again, are these things that you can source on the ground? Yes, they are. You can go into a hardware store, baby, and pick these things up. Can you get them online at one of my places that I shop frequently? Yes, you can, okay? And doable for you at home during the holiday break, okay? This is like totally doable, okay? Wires, alligator clips, right? 9-volt battery, okay? All right. So I'm connecting the battery, my electrical source, battery, okay? The 2 leads, tilt. Here's my copper wire. I just wanted you to see the wire here. All right. Welcome, folks, to Science with Miss Steph. For those of you who are just joining us, you are coming in on our 3rd, project that I'm saying that you can try at home with your scientists who might be, let's not say bored, but who might need a little something to do? All right, so I've got my alligator clips. I'm clipping. Okay. So you can see these are things. First of all, I'm not left-handed, so let me go that way, okay? And you can see that these are things that your scientists might need help with depending on their fine motor skills. Or this is something that you can let them practice. You can let them practice their fine motor skills, okay, by attempting to do this. All right, let me explain what this part is. This is my insulator, okay? Because when we're talking about electricity and just open wires, okay, it's going to get hot. And so that I protect my own fingers, I suggest you do the same, okay? Especially once I've got everything hooked up. Our pieces of metal that are exposed are going to get hot. They're going to heat up because I'm running electricity through them, okay? Once everything is connected, once I've got my closed circuit, right, everything's going to start to heat up, okay? All right, so now let's see if our electromagnet is charged enough to be able to attract one of these paper clips. It's so cool. Once again, Ms. Steph here for Science with Ms. Steph, and I just made an electromagnet out of very simple materials that you can grab from the hardware store. Here in Harlem, we have like lots of them. Okay? This is just basic materials, y'all, okay? And this is something that you can do with your scientists, little scientists. I'm telling you, make sure you have adult supervision when you're trying this project because, like I said, the wires get hot, okay? All right. Notice how all the stuff with water I put to the side, okay? I'm not mixing electricity and water, y'all. That's not what she's doing. No, she's not. Okay. So, magnets. A magnet. I made a magnet. Boom. All right. Now, what else do I want to say about this? I mean, what I do want to say is this particular part is hot. Be very careful. Be very careful when you're using these different things. Okay. And yeah, it's simple. You could see if you can try to pick up multiple paper clips, but you'll notice that you have trouble picking up multiple paper clips because it's not a very strong magnet. And that's where our engineering design process can come in. You can say, what will make the magnet stronger? Would it be a stronger battery, a battery that has a higher voltage, has more energy that it can put out? Would it be wrapping thicker or more, doing more coils around the nail? Would it be a larger nail, a smaller nail? What would it be? Okay, so you can imagine how this could take you a while to play with and investigate and learn more about the engineering design process. All right. Ms. Steph here, I told you, I promised you 4, and that was the third one, the electromagnet. I'm so glad to be with y'all today. And let's break out our last project, okay? I'm bringing to you 4, count them, 4 projects and activities, STEAM education activities that you can do while you are on this winter holiday break, okay? The majority of school systems in the U.S. have a break around this time of year. And so what can you do during this break? And especially right now, because we are having, in New York City, we're having a bit of a little outbreak of COVID. And so this is an opportunity to kind of re-up on your learn from home things. If these activities do not suit your fancy, guess what? I have well over 70 videos, 70 Science with Ms. Steph videos on my YouTube channel, on the Instagram. You can also access things on Facebook. And of course, you could, if you need more information, you can send me an email to say, hey, how did you do that project? All right, so you could send me an email. My email is on the screen over here on Facebook Live. Okay, mssteph@tfempowerment.org if you're wondering how to do this, if you need more information about the materials, how to source the materials, so on and so forth. All right, people, so we are on for Science with Ms. Steph Winter Holiday 2021 edition. Come on, let's head on out for our final project. Project number 4, putting paint. Yes, I said it and I meant it. You can make paint, really frankly, in my opinion, out of anything. This is where STEAM really comes into play, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Looking at the properties of something, thinking about how technology is something that makes our lives more fun or easier, right? That's technology. So creating paint is technology. That is an actual job that someone has. Well, not just someone, lots of people. And that's a job that you could have when you grow up. Okay. And so that's something that you can try at home, dabbling in making paint and making toys and all those types of things. And engineering, an engineer, there are different kinds of engineers, not just the engineers that do like structural things, but engineers that do chemical engineering. There's a lot of different chemicals that need to be engineered and made to last longer, right? To be preserved, right? And if you have some old pudding at home, an old pudding cup, you could, with the permission of an adult family member, you could take that old pudding cup, instead of throwing it away, you can say, I'm going to turn it into a science project, and you can create some art. All right. And art is something that we enjoy, something that looks pleasing, quote unquote, that looks pretty. Okay. I'm just going to take this pudding. Okay. I've got pudding cup. This is a vanilla pudding cup. There's a couple of things chemically that are inside of the vanilla pudding cup that we definitely need to talk about for you to have a true understanding of how to really mix the colors. Okay, color theory. Hi. Readings. Okay, we've got a lot of people coming in and joining us. Thank you so much for joining me for Science with Ms. Steph. Folks, we are on with 4 different activities that you can try during the quote unquote winter holiday break season that we've got going on, and also during some now that some of us are having to go remote again. Okay, so I am rocking out this pudding paint thing. I'm telling y'all, pudding paint, yes, it seems kind of strange, but it is potentially a bit cheaper than purchasing paint. Okay. And also it's potentially a use, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. It's a use for putting cups that maybe are past their expiration date and you don't want to throw them away, and you want to say, hey, how can I reuse this thing, or how can I prolong its usefulness to me? Okay. Also, I have some canvas, so you could use canvas. You can use any type of thing. I buy canvas, these little things in bulk, and so because of that, I have a lot of them. Again, making sure that I'm not wasting my materials. Reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Making sure that you have different options that you can try when you're trying to do these particular activities at home. Once again, Science with Ms. Steph, and I am doing now our art project. Y'all know how I feel. Science and art really come together in me, in my heart, and so I like to encourage all of my artists to love science and all of my scientists to love art. So let's finish our session today with this project. So I'm going to tilt you down, my Facebook people. Okay. And of course, my Instagram people, y'all should be tilted. Y'all should be able to see what's happening. And yes, I did say y'all. Okay. I know I live in New York City, but I grew up in all kinds of places, so I say things like y'all. All right. So again, you can do this. Scientists of all ages can have a really good time with this. Now, some of the things that are important to kind of understand when you're doing science projects, again, of all ages, with scientists of all ages, right? It's kind of like some of the properties of the chemicals that you're using to turn into paint, okay? So one of the things that's already present inside of vanilla, and I say that in air quotes, right? Uh-oh. I hadn't dropped anything until then, so she made it pretty far, okay? One of the things that's already in vanilla, can anybody put it in the chat for me? What's already in vanilla pudding that we might want to be aware of when we're trying to create paint and create specific colors? That's my hint. What's already in vanilla? Anybody? Can anybody think about that? Also, y'all, I will be putting this on the YT for replay so everybody can see it. Okay. All of my things that I put online, I want to make sure that our whole STEAM community, okay, near and far, can experience all these projects. Okay. So yeah, so we've got, okay, I'm going to take this banner off. We have this palette, right? Okay. I'm creating a palette. Okay. It's very important as an artist and a scientist to have a full understanding of the materials that you have and what's inside of the materials, right? Pudding cups have quite a bit of, there's milk in here, there's preservatives and so forth because it's shelf stable. And there's a lot of yellow actually in the background. There's yellow food coloring. You saw I added my special gel food coloring that I love. And of course, you can definitely use dollar store food coloring with this. You can't. You'll just need more. Okay? And so there's a lot of yellow in the background. So that will impact, that's one of the things that we've learned over the years of making this particular project is that it will impact your final color. Okay? And as you can see, this is an older pudding cup, okay? It's very, very lumpy. A more fresh pudding cup that's not expired yet will not be quite this lumpy, okay? Again, as an artist and a scientist, I need to have an understanding of my materials and how they work together. I'm looking at the importance of understanding how colors mix together when I'm doing this. Okay, color theory and all that. Hi. Thank you for joining me. Okay, thank you for joining me for Science with Ms. Steph, folks. I'm live on Instagram and simulcasting on Facebook as well using StreamYard. So if you're just now joining me, but you want to get an idea of all the other 3 projects that I did today, you can hop over on Facebook to watch it, or you can watch it on YouTube starting tomorrow. Okay. So yeah, so you see how I mix this in. It's really important to have an understanding of the materials. Okay. This is an orange that I'm doing. Mix. Right? So there's all kinds of things that you as young scientists can learn. And if you are an adult watching that works with children, there are different things that you can teach them while trying to turn a food product into paint, right? What are the advantages to using food? And what are the disadvantages to using a quote unquote food item? Mind you, there's egg and acrylic paint normally, and there's dairy, all that type of stuff. Okay. Um, and also just what does it imply, right? So there's a lot of different things that you may want to consider when using these types of materials with your students. Also, for those of us working with particularly young students, we may use food so that if they eat something, it's safe for them. It just they would get sick, right? So notice how even though I've got a lot of yellow in the background, I added enough blue so that it's actually going to be very, very blue paint. Okay. Also, again, you know, some programs, some of you out there running programs may have like a lot of budgeting constraints. And so being able to use this type of material and turn pretty much anything into paint really is just how I feel. Anything can be turned into a paint thing. Okay. This might be easier or cheaper or just simply more accessible for you than trying to order quote unquote non-toxic paint online. Okay. So I'm going to switch this. Okay. I've got my palette. I have my different colors, right? So for my art teachers, right? How do these colors mix together? How do these colors not go together? All those types of things, the things that you're kind of like the conversation you're having with students in that aspect. Okay. And then also definitely as a science teacher, not only the materials that I have here to paint with, but then when I'm painting on, why use canvas or cardboard paper over regular construction paper? What's the difference? Okay, so that's another way that you can make it an actual science project. So once you make your quote unquote paint, you can then say, okay, so we're going to test it on various surfaces. Okay, so let's try to spread this, right? How does this spread? Okay, that's another thing that how does it spread and how does it come out? What type of texture can I create? What type of texture am I going to get? What type of coverage am I going to get, right? So those of you who are engineers in the art space, right? In the art material space, you're always thinking about the texture and the coverage that you're getting with these different materials. So you see how this glides on. And once again, if I'm working with young children, if they accidentally eat it, okay, see what you're getting, okay? And the type of pigment that I'm getting, all right? And then the materials that you need. So yes, y'all, thank you so much. We've had several different people join us today for Science with Ms. Steph, right? And then just depending on kind of how I feel, okay? And because I know that this is something that has some stability that can like kind of stand up, okay? So that I can get kind of a 3D kind of situation here. And pile it on in this way, okay? Because I can, right? Okay. So anywho, these are the different things that I can do when I'm thinking about what activities I want to do over the break. Okay. I'm so excited that you joined me for Science with Ms. Steph. Today, we did 4 different activities. We started off with our amazing snow, right, y'all? And that was a quick one, literally water and that imitation snow. And it's instant snow. That's the instant stuff. That's not my snow recipe that's on YouTube. And of course, I invite you to check out that recipe. And of course, then you could compare how that feels, smells, and changes over time compared to the polymer that we use today that literally you just add water. Okay. So it was the first project we did, was to just add water, snow. And then, so you see I'm using all kinds of stuff. I'm having a really good time here. Painting. And then for our project number 2, I'm going to see how this mixes together just because I feel like it. And then for project number 2, I then said, wouldn't it be fun to try out water beads and to see how water beads, well, also known as Orbeez, how Orbeez expand if I use salt water instead of just fresh water like the instructions say, right? That's how I turned it into a science investigation. I tried it out, and the only variable, making it therefore more like a science experiment, the only variable that I had was the salt. One of them had salt. 1 cup had salt. Okay, and I showed you how the water beads did not expand as well in the salt water. Okay, and then also I did an electromagnet, right? We made an electromagnet, okay, with just some things that you can get from the hardware store. And finally, I made pudding paint. People. 4 different awesome activities that you can try at home. If you so choose, you can order stuff online. So see how my picture is coming together. It's not complete, obviously, okay? But it's coming together. And then the idea of how different kinds of paints dry, right? If it's not dry, is it a sufficient thing that we can use as paint, right? So yes, so 4 different activities that you can try at home during this time of possible, some of you having to go to remote learning this last week before break, and some of you who may be in other parts of the country who are already on break, or maybe your child goes to a school that's already gone off on break. So anywho, scientists, thank you so much for joining me for Science with Miss Steph for our 4 winter holiday activities. I invite you to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to all of the pages. And of course, if you want to know more information about, thank you for coming up. If you want to know more information about all the different things that we do, please go ahead and go to www.tfempowerment.org. Y'all, it has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Definitely make sure that you're following, because you never know. I might do a couple of things even next week during the holidays. Okay? Once again, thank you for joining me for Science with Miss Steph. Until next time.